Hi, my name's Maria and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm talking about a really fun project that I'll be participating in around SPFBO or SPFBO. If you don't know what SPFBO is, basically it's a self-published fantasy blog off and it's run by Mark Lawrence, and it's basically a fun kind of contest competition to honor and celebrate self-published fantasy books. And so every year 300 books are put forward by different authors, and then from those 300 books 10 different blogs will split them up. They will read through and review kind of their different books. They'll put forward semi-finalists and then they will put forward finalists. And so recently the 10 finalists of this current SPFBO round were announced, and now all of those 10 judges will read all of those 10 finalist books, score them, and then from there will be a winner. That's just like a very brief overview of what it is. I'm very new to following this. I actually didn't know about it until this year, and I found out about it through Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, who has been following along with and putting out content as the contest has been kind of going on this year, and that's been really fun. I was kind of drawn into the excitement of following along and cheering and kind of rooting for different books to make it to the finalist round, so it's been a lot of fun, and it's introducing me to books that I would admit probably not have heard of before, which is exactly what the contest is about. And so Cassidy has come up with this really fun project called SPFBO Cassidy's version, and what this basically is kind of an unofficial way of following along with the finalist round, and she's brought together 10 bookish people, including herself and including myself, from Bookstagram, from BookTube, and the 10 of us will be reading all 10 of these finalist SPFBO books, rating them with our own rubric, and then seeing who comes out on top in our kind of unofficial little contest, and seeing how that compares to the official SPFBO winner and scores. This has no bearing on the actual competition, but we are following kind of the same idea and the same 10-point rating system. The only difference is that we'll be following a rubric that Cassidy has put together. One of the things that we had been kind of discussing and that Cassidy was saying about the official contest is that there isn't really a kind of standard rubric between all these 10 blogs. They kind of just rate it in their own way, and so it makes it a little bit hard to compare and kind of see how all of their ratings compare, if that makes sense. And so we thought it would be really fun to do the same thing but have a little bit more of a structured rubric to it. So that's what we're doing. We'll be doing this for the next 5 months until the actual winner is announced, so through the end of April, and we'll be putting out different content as we go along, vlogs or reviews or some sort of kind of way to follow along with us. Cassidy has also created a actual blog website, which is so far above and beyond. I will link it down below for you, and you can see and follow along with our different scores as we finalize them. And it also has the rubric that we're following. It has synopses of all the different books. It's just a really great resource. So again, that will be down below. I'm also going to link all of the amazing people that are involved in this project with me and Cassidy. So yeah, I'm really excited. I can't wait to get started on reading these books. And what we're doing today in the video, other than just talking about this whole project in the first place, is I'm also going to be predicting my rankings of these 10 books before I read them. Based on just solely vibes pretty much and what little I know about them, I'm going to be ranking them in from 10 to 1. I have been known to have very inaccurate predictions, so it'll be interesting to see how this lines up with what my actual ratings end up being, because I did a previous predicting rankings sort of video a couple months back, and I've already disproven my own predictions, so I'm maybe not the best judge, but we'll kind of see. That's part of the fun. I also thought that it would be fun, instead of giving you synopses for these, I thought it would be fun to do keywords instead that I've pulled from kind of the synopsis and then the first kind of reviews that I spotted on Goodreads. I just figured that a lot of you might have already seen a lot of SPFBO content and heard these synopses over and over again, and that it'd be fun to kind of do keywords instead as a way to switch it up. I'm also the kind of fantasy reader where I'll read a synopsis and then it just goes in one ear and out the other. I forget all the details until I've actually read the book, but I do remember kind of vibes and keywords and feelings and kind of a general idea of what I'm going into the book. So this is kind of how I go about picking books before reading them anyway, so I just thought it'd be fun. Starting out in the 10th spot, I have A Song for the Void by Andrew C. Piazza, and the main reason that this one is in this spot is because it is a cosmic horror, which quite frankly terrifies me. I stay away from horror in general, both in watching and reading, and so it's just a very out of my comfort zone genre, but I'm excited that it's kind of making me pick something like that up. I do think it will be interesting because I've noticed that where I can't watch gore in like movies or TV, I can read it a lot better. So it could be the same thing with horror, where I think that I can't really take it in book form and it's actually a lot easier. So that'll be fun to test out and see. The keywords that I wrote down for this one are cosmic horror, South China Sea, Lovecraftian, opium wars, historical fiction, pirates, murders, mutiny, violence and gore, compelling philosophical discussions, which I'm excited for, and then addiction struggles. So I think there could be a lot of cool themes in there, but I am, to be honest, a bit scared of this one. In 9th place, I've got Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. And the reason this one is in 9th place is because it strikes me as kind of a very comedic, humorous book from the vibes I'm getting from it. And humor is very kind of hit or miss for me in books. It doesn't always work for me. So I think it could be one that I love, or it could be one that it just doesn't quite meet the mark. And the keywords that I wrote down for this one are Guardian Fallen Angel, Good Omens meets The Good Place vibes, funny, witty, chocolate, heartwarming, footnotes, petty pranks, and modern day London. In 8th place, I've got The 13th Hour by Trudy Skies, and this cover is a little deceiving because it has the series title really blown up, but Cruel Gods is the series, and then 13th Hour is the actual book title. The keywords that I have for this one are steampunk gaslamp fantasy, cruel and meddling gods, soul-sucking creatures, magic portals, quaint Britishisms, city setting, chaotic energy, queer normative society, underground organization, and heavy and dark themes. And with this one, the reason it's in this spot is because I've tried not very much steampunk, but I have tried some in the past, and it just isn't quite the like atmosphere and vibes that I like in fantasy. It just isn't my favorite. So I'm not sure how I'll feel about those elements, but I do think there's other elements in this that could really surprise me and be something I really love. I should mention also that one of the cool things about this whole project is that we're rating it, yes, on enjoyment, but that's only one part of the rubric. Enjoyment factors in a lot, but there's also, we'll be rating it on characters and world building and plot. And so as much as my normal ratings are very much enjoyment based, this is going to be a kind of more objective, I think, rating, and for all of us across the board. And I think that that's going to be so fun, because even if there's a book that isn't, necessarily my favorite in terms of enjoyment, it might do other things so well and be so well crafted that it might still get a really high score. So I think that's just something that's really kind of fun and will help take the subjectiveness of this a little bit out of the game, even though reading is still subjective. In 7th place, I have Mysterious Ways by Abby Evans. And for this one, I wrote down Matriarchal World, Humans, Angels, and Demons, Religion, Gods and Goddesses, Battling Injustice and Corruption, which I like, Mystery, Queer Normative Society as well, Con Woman, and Banter. So we're going up the list and we're starting to see keywords and kind of buzzwords that I really like. So I love banter, which is funny because, like I said, I don't love humor. I don't know how that works, but it does. I love religion in my fantasy, and I love any sort of themes of battling injustice and corruption, so I'm very excited for this one. I think that it could end up even higher on this list, really. Then in 6th place, we have Fire of the Forebears by L.A. Buck, and sadly this one is one where the author has passed away since entering into the competition, which is really sad because A, they won't get to see kind of their book making it all the way to the finals and maybe even further, and also sad for us as readers because they won't continue the series. So a little bit of kind of bittersweetness with this one, but I'm really happy for them that the book is still getting the love that it kind of deserves as their legacy, really. So I'm still excited to go into this one. And I have heard from Dom from Dominish Books, who by the way is one of our participants, that technically it doesn't end on like a cliffhanger. It feels like a pretty wrapped up arc, and so it's not the end of the world that there isn't a continuation. The keywords that I wrote down for this one are centaurs, talking animals, specifically bears, prophesized savior, heroes and villains, rebellion, epic fantasy, classic feel with a modern writing style, family, plot-driven, and elemental magic. And the reason this one's in this spot is just because this one gives me classic fantasy vibes, and that isn't always my favorite genre of fantasy, but it also can be done really well. So much potential here. Dom has already read this one and really loved it, and so that has me really excited. We're getting into the 5th spot now, and for that one I'm predicting The Umbral Storm by Alex Hudson. Keywords for this one are epic fantasy, Wheel of Time meets Cradle, progression fantasy, which I understand is kind of like when characters level up, sort of video game style, but I've never read progression fantasy, so it'll be my first. That's exciting. World building, multi-POV, elemental magic system, brewing war, ancient empire, hidden world history, Sanderson-esque, action sequences, rags to riches, and then info dumps, which I didn't put down as a negative. I think info dumps can just give an idea of the kind of fantasy it might be, where a lot of world building, for example, is invested in. Again, this one just gives me a little bit of classic fantasy vibes, so it wasn't in my top ones, but there's a lot in here that excites me, especially the ancient empire, the kind of brewing war. I think there's a lot that I'm excited to dig into. In fourth spot, I have Scales and Sensibility by Stephanie Burgess, which is a Jane Austen retelling, as the title suggests, with dragons. And this is one of the several kind of cozy fantasies that made it into the finalist round. It seems to be the year of cozy fantasy, really, and I'm actually really excited about that. I personally really like the idea of cozy fantasy. I think I'm gonna vibe well with it, so quite a few of these top ones are in that category. And it's been interesting because not all of the other participants are as big into cozy fantasy, so you'll see some of these top ones on my list lower down on their prediction lists, and then you'll see some of the more kind of classic fantasy higher up on their lists, whereas they're a bit lower down on mine. So it's just an interesting variety that we're bringing to this. Keywords for this one are pet lap dragons, Austen of course, Regency rom-com, hidden identities, socialites, fortune hunters, magical catastrophes, unapologetically over the top, entertaining, quirky, and a fantasy of manners. I think I'm just gonna have a really fun time with this. I like romance every once in a while in my fantasy. I like dragons, of course. I love characters navigating kind of social scenarios, so I'm just really excited. I think I'm gonna have a very fun time with this. In my third predicted spot, I've got Tethered Spirits by T.A. Hernandez. So for this one, keywords are immortal with recurring amnesia, sorcerer, trauma loss, cursed character. It's YA, but there's no romance, which can be a rarity. There is found family, it's a travel quest story, talking animal companions, a popular trope, character focused, which is why it's so high up on my list, multi-POV, diverse, magic system, and world history / legends. This one is YA, so it could go either way for me, but I just have a good feeling about it. And the reviews that I kind of, again, briefly glanced over seem to praise the characters a lot, which is always a plus in my book as a character-driven reader, so I'm hoping that this one will be one that I just fall in love with. In second place, I'm predicting A Touch of Light by Thiago Abdallah, and I will say this one has a little bit of bias to it because Cassidy has already read it and raved and gave it 5 stars, which I always really trust her recommendations, so of course it's really high up on my list because of that, but I also do have a feeling, based on the kind of keywords that I've pulled out, that this is going to be a book to my tastes. The keywords I've got are religion, politics, again, both really big buzzwords for me, resurrection, magic system, bonds with griffins, sentinels, culture clashes, multi-POV, mysterious plague, unique world building, and for fans of epic fantasy. This sounds like one that's going to have a really unique and big world and just a lot of really cool elements to it, and I'm just really excited for the religion and politics. And then coming in at my #1 predicted spot is Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. And this is by Quenby Olson. Of all the finalists, this is a book that I knew I was going to read regardless of it being in this competition, and it's one that I'd heard of before and just kind of caught my eye in general. It sounds like everything I love. The buzzwords I've got are cozy, 40-year-old spinster. So it is an adult book. The cover looks a little bit deceiving, like potentially middle grade, but it is an adult book. Tea and Cake and Dragons, which delightful. Give me tea and dragons in the book. Those are my 2 favorite things. Perfect winning combination there. Princess Bride meets Bridgerton vibes, which also sounds delightful. Romance, adventure, fantasy of manners, humor, breaking the fourth wall, and set in a small British village. I love anything British. I love dragons. I love tea. I love cozy. I am so excited for this. I was so invested in this making it into the finalist round, and I'm so excited that it did. I'm honestly going to be devastated if it isn't in my top ratings when I actually get around to reading these, because like I said, I think it has the perfect formula for everything I love. It also kind of reminds me of the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, which is a series that I really enjoyed overall, so that's, again, why it's in my predicted #1 spot. Let me know down below if you will be following along or reading any of the SPFBO finalists yourself. Let me know if any of these surprised you or if you agree with me and think that this is where they'll rank for me. I'm really excited to actually get around to reading them and see how these predictions line up with the reality, and to see all the other judges in our little project group, Cassidy's version, start reading them and rating them as well. It's going to be so much fun. I'm planning to start reading them in December, and I'm hoping to put out vlogs as I go, so stay tuned for more content about this. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.